Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it is time for...
And now the vote is near. It's coming soon. Unspun. I think I've sung that song before, but I did a little reversion of it. We got the election and it's voting day tomorrow. Woo, starting tomorrow. Woo, I can't wait. Voting day.
Are you an early voter? Are you?
I am.
Let's get.
Yeah,
me too.
Get her done.
I'm consistently amazed at how simple our voting process is, whether it be civic election or provincial or federal. When we watch what unfolds in other jurisdictions, and I'm pointing to the United States, the discussions about standing in line for hours and hours, like it takes literal seconds to I think 3 minutes was my maximum in and out to vote at all levels. And when I hear that only 40% of people who are eligible to vote actually turn out for a civic election, it makes me sad. So I hope the one thing that we get clear here, George,
yes,
please find your voting spot, go to the place. There are lots of signs. You'll feel good about it. Go in, vote for the person that you've done a little research on, not the name recognition.
If you know who you're going to vote for.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because the undecided voters are freaking out, George. They're freaking out.
You and I are facing the same problem, I think. We're talking about it before the show. We're being asked by a lot of people who to vote for. Whether it be the mayoral or councillors, and I've been very agnostic. I'm like, I honestly, I don't want to tell you. I don't usually do that. I'll give some councillors that I think are good, but generally, I don't. I think it's important for you to decide yourself. But also, I don't. I don't know. The choices are. I was on this show called Coastal Front with Francis Beulah and Mo Amir this week, and that was the question we talked about. And I was very, meh. The candidates are just.
Can we just then talk about something that we have referenced here on Unspun? Because Unspun, we're about taking the spin out of the noise, right? So there's a lot going on, and we'll get to some platforms and some specifics about the candidates. But for the undecided voter, let's say, hypothetically, that the voter is, I just can't do another 4 years of the current mayor. Let's just say that's the voter coming in. And then they look at what their options are. And you've talked about how packed the field is center, right. And when we talk right, typically we're talking fiscally conservative, smaller government. It's not right wing. It's further to the right, where Kennedy-Stewart is pretty much the lone candidate on the left of the spectrum. So take us through how you see this shaping up with that crowded field on the center right, and Kennedy-Stewart sitting left.
Well, part of it depends on the turnout, and I think it'll be the worst turnout ever because of this unexcited slate of mayoral candidates that we have that nobody wants to decide, so they won't show up. Plus, there are some signs coming up, and I know that ABC's been running a lot of ads, but I generally think most people are not paying attention. Now, you and I are nerds, and we think that people are paying attention, but I bet you if you walk out in the street and ask 50 people, if two know that there's an election, that voting day starts tomorrow, I'd be shocked. So there's all that. So I think turnout will be terrible, which is probably good news for Kennedy-Stewart. Because he'll, I've talked about this before. He's got the union support. He's got the NDP support. So he has this machine that's going to support, put out emails, send out their teams, get their drivers, all that stuff, picking up people, taking them to the polling booth, emailing, endorsements, direct to their massive databases. The BC Liberals haven't done that, aren't saying they're going to support anybody and put out anything that I know of. So, and then you have, these candidates on the center, right of center. I think Colleen Hardwick is appealing to left and right of the older set that owns their single family homes and don't want change. I know that
I've had a couple of people, let me jump in on that, because I've had a couple of people who have come my way under the guise of what you were saying off the top, because people are coming to us going, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of thinking, and they're kind of running it by me. And I'm like you saying, well, I can see how you would see that way. You know, it's people literally
Mm-hmm.
saying things like, I'm driving through the rich areas and I see Ken Sim signs. And then I
Yeah.
drive through, you know, our neighborhood and I see a lot of Colleen Hardwick signs. So I think I'm going to go with the people in my neighborhood. And I think, well, with due respect to both candidates, you should do more than go by who's got a sign on their yard, right? Like
A
there's
sign
that,
game, ground
right?
game. Yeah.
Ground game.
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
Or
And then you hear,
somebody said they say Colleen Hardwick saved my view. I had one person from
oh my
Fairview
God, okay.
Slopes say that, right?
He'll
But
take the view.
seriously,
She hasn't
so
pressed that
explain that.
yet. If she wins, she
Ex-
will, because she'll cancel the Broadway plan. Um,
Can
yeah, I
she?
think. Oh yeah, yeah. If she has a majority, depending on who
Majority.
wins.
Right.
So I don't see that happening. I think that I think that I think she'll take away some votes from Kennedy-Stewart on the left. Actually, I think she'll take more votes away from the Green Party. So I think the Green Party is at risk of losing all their people because of Colleen Hardwick and her team. I think you've got like guys like Bill Tillman and things like that. Although we've talked about this before. People assume they have to choose 10 people. You don't have to choose 10 people, but when they do, they'll choose. They don't want to choose all 10 of one party. So it's smart for parties not to run 10 candidates. So as you see on the ballot in Vancouver and there's parties now in other regions, and it's the same case. You rate
Right.
your vote generally. So they're running 6 generally. If you look at you look at Forward is running 6, I think, and then you've got interestingly one city running 4. So to combine they make 10. So you have people go into the voting booth. They go, I
Right.
don't want. If they had to choose 10, they wouldn't. Now NPA's or ABC's big mistake, and I always get those two acronyms mixed up, which is interesting that I keep mixing those two up because I think people who aren't paying attention will go into the voting booth and they go ABC, NPA. Oh God, I know which one's which. And so
Yeah,
NPA
they're
is still going
both
to get a lot of
purple.
votes.
They're both purple.
That's right, and they're
Yeah.
going to get a lot. But I think NPA will get a lot of votes. So I mean, I think that it's going to be about turnout. It's about getting your vote out. I think it'll be about that number game. With ABC running 7, they weaken the list because people might want to go, okay, I'll do 6, and then I'll do all of the other party. I'll do random or I'll do whatever. They might do 7, but there's that magic between 5 and 7. When you go to 8, it's terrible. 7's not bad, but 6 is even better. And the fact that the competition's all running 6, but ABC's running 7, that's really devastating potentially to all of their council candidates. So Ken Sim could win with no or with only a few candidates because of that.
Interesting. Such a numbers game. So one of the lessons I learned in the last municipal election, because I thought I had to vote, the number that it says this many, school board, this many park board, this many da da da.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like trying to figure out, and oh, did I ever check some wrong boxes there? Holy moly. I will
Mm-hmm.
remember those names
Yeah.
for all the wrong reasons.
Vote
But
for the
this
people you
time,
like only.
right, but going into the voting booth, and I plan to vote as soon as the early polling stations open,
Mm-hmm.
which is October 1st. Yay!
Yeah.
Just to reiterate, and the actual civic election is October 15th, which is George's birthday. So make note.
And I'll be live on CTV with Diane
Well,
Watts that night.
there you go, and we will be watching. But
Yes, you
the
better.
way I plan to do it is go in and only vote for the people that I want in City Hall and only vote for the people that I feel are
Yeah.
qualified to be on park board or
Yeah.
school board. I will not be like, I think I know who that is. Check.
Just
I'm
to
not
make
doing
it
that.
just to make it so people understand what we're saying here, if there's 10 spots and you just vote for one of those people, that's like giving that person 10 votes. I know it's confusing, but that's what it's like. Basically, you're giving
More
that person
power.
10 votes.
Yeah.
So you're giving that person 10 votes because otherwise all those 9 other votes. So you're giving them all your votes. And so imagine if somebody you wanted to win lost by 10 votes, you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, crap, I shouldn't have given those other votes to those other people because that made them win. Or that's the basic math to help people understand. So you do 2 candidates, it's like 5 votes each, and so on and so forth. So,
Right.
I'm not saying just vote for one, but vote for the best candidates, because you know what? At the end of the day, that's how the best candidates get in. Because if you do your research, go meet the people. I think that's important. You can read these bios and stuff, but there's enough public places that these candidates and the mayors are. They should be at least at the debates. Watch the debates, see how they
I
interact
love
with
that.
people. Just get
The
to know them. It's not
Chinatown,
that
the
hard. It's
China,
totally reachable.
Chinatown debate last weekend was really quite fascinating for me. I was like sitting around, I'm painting. So I'm literally like earbuds in, had the
Yeah.
live stream on while I'm sitting there and I'm taking it in. And I actually started to, because I'm an undecided voter. I am. And I struggle with this. I know exactly who I don't want. So read into that what you will. But I'm still struggling with where does my vote land so that exactly who I don't want doesn't end up in power. I don't know what the right term is. Getting reelected. I'm just so upset with the way the city is being run right now, and I don't know that that can be laid at the feet of one. But as you've talked about, a very dysfunctional council, and that does not mean there aren't great people working really hard. And being a public servant is incredibly difficult. Like, to serve as an elected official is not, it's not an easy role to take on. And I've said that to you numerous times because you've done it long term.
Oh, I
I
mean,
have not.
with that, with the stuff that happened this week with one city, which might destroy them, with this emails that were, or this texting that was released, this really nasty text about, really trying to ruin people's reputations and that stuff. This is not uncommon.
I missed that.
It was a text sequence between some mainers, and they were talking and some people within the party, and they were basically saying, "Hey, we can destroy this person by saying this and that," and you're like, "Oh God!" And somehow they got out these texts, and it's just the kind of stuff, though. Basically, Amanda sent to text to me the other day. She said about, because it was kind of referring to that, and obviously she's my partner and she knows what torture I went through when I was in office. It's gotten worse, but you basically, first of all, to run for office now, you have to be perfect. You can't ever have any history that you've done anything wrong in any capacity at all ever in your life. Otherwise, it'll come back to haunt you. You can never have posted anything on social media. But even if you are perfect, even if you've done nothing ever wrong in your life, and you've been the little angel, which is, running for office.
Rare at best.
Usually who run for office have personalities, and they probably have done things that are like, whatever. Even if you are perfect, then people will still lie about you and spread these rumors that aren't true. And so who wants to put themselves through that? So I will say that I don't care. I would say anybody running is, I commend them, but also I say there's a lot of great people who don't run because of those two things. I'm one of them. I'm kind of like, I don't need my life to, destroyed by this. And the number of lies about me that happened when I was in office were ridiculous. Yeah. And I'm like, and sometimes in the chamber, there would be things that the other councillors and the mayor would say. I'm like, are you kidding me? That is bold-faced lie. And you're saying it right here in public. And it's insane. And this happens all the time. So, it's disappointing, but so do your research. Don't vote for everybody. They can vote for the best people if you can figure out who those are.
Let's talk about some platforms. Sure. Because ABC was the quote unquote, I got the release, the first to release their platform. Did you have a chance to look through it?
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing new there. They've released all parts of it at this point. The newest thing was this getting rid of bureaucracy, which I think is a bit naive. I know that there have been senior staff at City Hall in the past that have tried to fix some of the bureaucratic nightmares that exist. There's a reason, government invented the word bureaucracy. It's like, so there is this plan to reduce the amount of time for, getting your permits and all that stuff. It's a bit naive. Overall, I would say, and I've said this,
like a 2-week maximum or whatever, I think was what in there, right? Like,
we had several motions. Tony Tang, when I first got elected, put a motion forward about timelines and reducing all this stuff. And we assessed how much money that would take. But one of the challenges, super expensive to do. Actually have to hire tons of staff if you can find the staff. Then you have the staff. Where do you put the staff? There's not enough space. The city doesn't have enough space. They need to build a new facility for staff. And then, of course, it's really, you have to change a lot of policies and then you have people who are saying the process is, if you try to change things to make it faster, what happens? People go, that's too fast. We need time to consult. And you got the consultation piece that people say, that's not the way you do it. And so it's naive, but I said this on CTV last night. I was saying, they've got the volume game down. ABC, they're certainly just churning out the ideas. I'm looking at some of them going, crazy. I think that was my idea from 5 years ago. Wait a minute, that looks awfully familiar.
How smart of them, though.
Smart. Where did they get that idea?
That's so smart. Now let's talk about, that's ABC. Let's go to team, because I think and correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. I say this coming from a position of novice, but I love the fact that you and I do this each week because I get to pick your brain about this. So if I'm looking at it the way it is, forward, that's Kennedy-Stewart, right? The incumbent. And then there's ABC, which we were just talking about. That's Ken Sim, formerly of the MPA, Ken Sim, who lost by whatever 657 votes the last election to give Kennedy-Stewart the mayoral office. And then you have Colleen Hardwick's team, right? So these are the three
main ones,
big players, right? Like one of these three are likely going to be the mayor. So, okay, we just talked about ABC, very prolific with the throw, and you've been talking about how much money apparently they had raised. Clearly, we're seeing that money being put into play. Bus boards, billboards, bus shelters, radio.
1.6 million apparently they've raised. I'm not sure how. They $1,200 a pop. It's that, that's.
And the constant, like you said, we talked about our friend Patrick, who's working with the ABC crew, like knows how to okay, this is man on the street stuff. Let's talk about it.
Oh, and Patrick's great. He's got lots of great ideas.
He's brilliant. He is brilliant. He really is. I mean, he was part of UnSpun Podcast when we launched, and we would only have the best. So we just can't afford him. Let's go to now Colleen Hardwick's team, which we've referenced a couple of times here. What she's promised, like get rid of the Broadway plan completely, save the views, voted
no train to UBC. That was new to this week. No SkyTrain to UBC, so no, that's a no to her, which is terrible. Because she says it's a gift to developers. What about the students at UBC? What about all the development? Yeah, there's development happening at UBC that's out of our control. But hey, those people want to work. A lot of them work at the healthcare district at Cambie and Broadway. What are they going to do? Drive? Are they taking a bus? Come on. Get serious.
So what is the other side?
Drives me crazy. We'll put a little choo-choo train down Broadway. That'll solve the problem. Little Thomas the Tank Engine along the street. Toot, 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 toot. Toot, toot, toot.
How do you really feel?
I just hate this streetcar concept. It's so old-fashioned and out of date. Like seriously, we have electric buses already. We don't need little tracks on the streets. It's like, what we need is a fast train that goes underground. Come on, people. Duh. Anyway, don't get me started. But their housing policy, though, they released this $1.5 billion idea, which is, they say they're going to build 200,000 houses with $1.5 billion, 500 million from the province, 500 million from the federal government. I'm just going to do some math here. Hold on, because and I should have done this before. So 500 million from the city, mostly through land. But I'm just going to say the average house price is to build a unit in the Vancouver. I'm going to say $500,000 if you include the land. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. Did they say 200,000 units? They said, or 2,000, 200,000, wasn't it?
I think it was 200,000.
Let's just do 2,000. 2,000 is 2,000 times 500,000, which is the average price of a unit in Vancouver, is $1.9 billion. So they're already off by 400 million on 2,000 units. So, the math just doesn't add up. So it's 1.5 billion is a drop in the bucket to build. It's not, and it's a nice idea. Land use and taking advantage of our land and working with the federal and provincial governments, absolutely. But I don't get their math.
So let's talk about that. Because let's go to the provincial government. David Eby, who is vying to become the next premier of British Columbia, looking to be named the NDP provincial NDP leader, and then by the stepping away of John Horgan taking over the premier's office. He, the housing minister, attorney general, was the human rights lawyer who has the office on West Broadway. Full disclosure, I'm one of his constituents, so I've watched the progression of David Eby. I have great respect for him as a person, as a human. He's very accessible. When he threw down the massive plan this week, there's a lot of it that's like, where the hell was this 6 years ago, was kind of my visceral reaction to it. And we can get into some of the details of it. But one of the things I found really interesting within this provincial point of view, or the promises associated with it, was to sort of say, you know what, municipalities who are not doing the developments are going to get overruled by the province. Like that's one of the pieces in here.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. I mean, what I'm surprised that first of all, is endorsed by UBCM for the most part, with the association that represents municipalities. I haven't heard a lot of pushback from any municipal leader yet, which is interesting.
Yeah.
because it's basically usurping a lot of their power. So surprising. I mean, I think one of the reasons he didn't do it was because I think he didn't have control of the caucus before.
Right.
He wasn't the premier, and he might have tried to do it behind the scenes and was shut down by who knows who. Like maybe the premier was like, no, too aggressive. We don't want to go there. So who knows the reasons? He's certainly been warning us that this idea was coming. A lot of these ideas were coming. I'm just surprised at the lack of backlash from it. Maybe because it's an election.
Let's talk
Most of it's
about the
not
one thing though
possible.
that
Most of it's not
when
possible.
I'm when I'm referencing where was this 6 years ago is the one about you can't we're going to be more tuned in to people who claim to be students who own a $15 million home, who make,
Okay.
below the poverty line. Like they're like, why hasn't that checked box on a tax form been part of, or the real estate that has changed hands in a way, or the flipping that has gone on, where there's going to be a flipping tax if you flip a property in under 2 years. There's a higher tax rate with that, and as it gets closer to the 2-year mark and beyond, the tax rate drops down. I mean, there are ways of sort of cooling that use of real estate as commodity, and for so many of us who live in Vancouver and have watched it, and I'm no
Sure.
expert, it's just like, holy crap,
I
why
would say
hasn't.
that it's a small part of the problem though, and I think it's actually challenging for them because I think you'll have to work with the federal government on that and get them on board
Right.
to get access to that information.
Yeah.
We're talking about income and all that stuff. That's generally not the
Good point.
provinces within their space. I think that some other areas that I think one idea was that 3 units I think per individual residential site. That's not an attack in Vancouver. Actually, we already have that in Vancouver. It's totally possible
Yeah.
already. So it's
Yeah.
actually, I think that one's more at the suburbs. If you live in other communities who have underdeveloped more than Vancouver by a lot of them, certainly on the social housing side. This is a shout out to those communities that you guys got to start letting these single family homes have multiple units without having to go through a slow process. So,
Yeah.
there are some ideas there, but I mostly am, and we'll see what happens. He may not even win the leadership. You've heard that the other candidate, she's signed up more member, like 11,000 members or something crazy. Like she could actually win because she signed up more
Yeah.
members.
I don't
So
want to pivot off this just yet because I wanted to
yes,
get to you because I'm not a condo owner with a strata. I do know numerous people who have been longtime condo owners within stratas that do not allow rentals. And they've found it, their
yeah,
name is in the lottery to become the rental unit, to be able
right.
to.
Or you have to
Meanwhile,
get
you can Airbnb your place if you want to, which is a whole other topic.
yeah.
But for some, and I heard this discussion right out of the gate. I think it was Mike Smith's show. I'm pretty sure it was Mike Smith's show where they
Mm-hmm.
were discussing, how it was Tom Davidson, UBC professor, who's often chiming in on housing issues. And they were having the discussion about the condo association is the one that's pushed back the most. The Condo Association of BC
Yeah,
saying, whoa, you're taking away our rights to manage, and the argument
yeah.
being, well, you're over managing the property owners within your strata by telling them they can't rent their unit. So how do you feel about the idea that, no more restrictions in condos for stratas?
Well, I live in a big strata, 300 over 300 units. We have no restrictions. It's our choice.
Yeah,
It does create problems. The renters are generally the problem, and they
yeah,
cost us a lot of money. And so I can see how but the building I lived at before, at a smaller one in the east side, was a no renter building, and 20 units. So it would be really challenging. You have no budget to manage challenges. So I think you need to look at the different buildings. I don't think and there are people saying, "Oh, it's hard to change the Strata Property Act," but the Liberals did it with regards to selling your entire building. You had to have 100% support from your membership in your
yeah,
strata. Then they reduced it to 80. But I think the concept of a strata is that you are the owners. It's like you own your home, if an individual home. So. And they can change the rules for the other idea of 3 units per site. Okay, fine, but I don't have to build 3 units per site if I don't want to. If I live in my single family home, I can if I want to. Now that you've changed the rules, so I don't have to. In this case, they're saying you have to do this in
right.
your home. And an strata is, as a conglomerate of people, a single family kind of unit, but it's just that owned by multiple people. The land that the building is on is owned by whatever 300 people, 300 units in my building, and so it is I think a push that I think there'll be pushback on that, and I think there's a valid argument. I think it's more really the focus should be on, and I've always said this: what are the units that are being lived are affordable and lived in and rentable? How do we build more of those? Can we stop focusing on punishing and saying you can't do this, you can't do that, and say what's working over here? Let's do more of that. Why are we going over here saying you can't do that? Why don't we say, hey, that's working? Let's do more of that. Let's put our energy, our processes, our development permits, you know what? You want to build a 300 unit tower that has no rentals in it? We're going to just leave you over here for a little while we deal with all these other places that are going to be rentals. And that's kind of what the rental program was in Vancouver, which I think still exists. And it was called something else before. It prioritized developments that were affordable, whatever, but they were still rental. And so that is a program that is a way to do that. Why create punishment when you can actually create incentive programs? I don't get it. It's such a cheap, lazy political move by politicians. I think, come on, you can punish it, but it's also effective because it makes you look, oh, you're so smart. You're really punishing. Yeah, I hate those people too. Let's punish those people. Like, why? Just go build more of that.
I'm going to jump in and say, with the whole bad renter, good idea, freedom to rent within a condo complex, why do we not change the rules to remove bad tenants? Create a system that does a better job of that. But I'm just throwing that down there.
Yeah. Well, this government's pro-renter, and they've made it really challenging for owners now to deal with renters. Almost impossible.
I think you can be pro-renter and still know when a renter is bad. Like the horror stories that are told are wild. I want to get in one more topic. One more topic before we go, because we're running out of time and hot on topics today. Number one, the changes healthcare wise, a couple of fronts. Pharmacists will now be able to finally be able to prescribe medications, and one in particular, God bless the fact that people who suffer from bladder infections will no longer have to suffer over the course of a weekend before they can get maybe an appointment. Even now, weeks to get an appointment, it's terrible. And you can just go to your pharmacist, which is great. But the COVID briefing on the flu and COVID season that will be coming, and the stats around vaccination, what have you, with the changes federally to mandates being dropped for travel. I thought of you, George. I thought of you and the travel you've done over the course of COVID-19 and the money that you put out trying to do the acrobatics. I mean,
coming back a year ago at this time, we were into Palm Springs with the kids. And oh my God, it was so expensive. We spent, I think it was $1,500 in tests because of us there and back. It was ridiculous. Yeah. And we flew from Vancouver on a plane, landed in Palm Springs, went to this house, never left the house because we didn't want to. It was, it was a beautiful house and the pool. And came back and never, I don't think we went out like twice into the community. We basically put ourselves into confinement with pleasure.
Yeah.
So.
And got a tan doing it.
Got a tan and had a lot of fun with my kids. So it was brutal, and also just the stress of it. Like I got one kid who's like he's jamming things up his nose, not a thing he likes to do. So
no. So will you mask up when you travel now? Now that it's not mandated, people freaking out that it's
no.
You're not a masker.
We don't mask.
But you don't care if somebody next to you is going to mask, right?
No, it's fine. I saw your thing on Dean Cain. His little rant on the airplane. Why do I have to wear a mask? Superman, calm down, buddy.
Calm down, Superman. Go hang out with Chachi. Go hang out with Chachi.
Wear a mask. Yeah, Chachi. I'll wear a mask if I'm told to, but I'm pretty. You and I have always talked about this. How I've been always a bit looser. I got COVID. You didn't, so I guess I win. You win.
You're right. No, I don't feel like it's a competition, and I absolutely
I blame my high school reunion. Langley.
I will.
Langley secondary reunions. Anti-vaxxers at Langley.
She coughs. I 100% expect to test positive at some point, because that I will also get the flu. I'll also get a cold. I'll also get all those things. But I do feel confident in being protected. And I think that's one of the takeaways from the COVID briefing. I hadn't seen Dr. Henry speak to the statistics for quite some time. And I kind of got that feeling, coupled with the travel restrictions and mandates being lifted, and then hearing Dr. Henry lay out what the CDC and Dr. Danuta Skowronski and the team behind the scenes that are doing the math on this. It's good news, guys. It's good news. It's still there. It's still something we all need to manage, dependent on our vulnerabilities within our homes. If you're in a multi-generational home with elders that are immunocompromised, it's very different from you and I, who live in a household of healthy people. And the one big takeaway is this is not dangerous for children in this moment. And I'm so grateful for that, for the kids who can get back to being more social, and connect in ways like even just a couple of years of not being able to connect. We don't know what the consequences of that are for kids. I'm a mother of a teenager. You're a father of a teen with some older kids as well. And it's been tough on the young people. I can't imagine, what that might have been like. So I want to hold on to what's good. And there are a lot of extremes on both ends of the spectrum here, the deniers and the anti-science and that, and all the way to the other end of just by talking about not wearing a mask, you're killing people. Like, everybody calm down.
On that note, we got to go. I got to go edit this thing, and then I got other stuff to do.
Bye.
Vote. George_affleck. Jody at Jody Vance. UnSpunPodcast.com. And show up to vote tomorrow. You can start tomorrow, everybody. Go down to your local polling station, wherever you are in this province, I think. At least in Vancouver.
Only vote for those you know. Trust me. And you want to make note of who was on the park board this last 4 years and ensure that they don't vote. No, I won't even.
Okay, we are late. We got to go. I'll see you later. Have a nice weekend. Bye.